Welcome to Fortune Forecast. You are in my book playlist where we have been going through the book titled Secrets of Mental Supremacy. The author is W.R.C. Latson. The book was published in 1913 by the Elizabethtown Company, and it is in the public domain. If you're new to my channel, welcome. So glad you found me. And I am Daisy, your hostess. And to our subscribers, wow, what an interesting chapter we just finished reading. The expectations that I've had regarding the book have been brought to good terms with the many practice exercises that the author has provided for us. Definitely, it's a workbook in itself, very simple, which will require the reader, should the reader wish to attain mental supremacy, to be diligent and make time during the day to put into practice many of these recommendations that have proven, according to the author, to yield much amplification of the use of the mind. As a matter of small talk, in the previous chapter, the author quoted Solomon saying, "There is nothing new under the sun." This statement was in regards to imagination, and particularly to the things we see, the creations around us, as nothing being new, that there are a combination of things that have already existed since the beginning of thought. That's where I kind of had to put a pause. And after my read, I sat down and contemplated what was the meaning behind those words. I am going to jump in and share a little biblical moment here, especially in two sections of the Bible, as using these esoteric and religious texts allows us to contemplate, to think, to ponder more about just life and what these authors wrote and what are any significant meaning behind them. For to me, it seems really interesting that in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 8, it is quoted, "I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, said the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty." And then to add, in the book of Ecclesiastes 1, I'll go ahead and quote, "Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Is there anything of which one can say, "Look, this is something new"? It was here already, long ago. It was here before our time. I'll end it there, but it goes further on. Either way, this is really interesting for anyone that follows anything that has to do with ancient artifacts that are found, and they seem to be way ahead of our time now. And where was it? Who was it? Was there other civilizations before us? What is this whole thing called life? So it really gives me so much to ponder. And the desire for myself to amplify my mind is more so to expand that consciousness, to tune in with what is all around, to make that extra effort, just as I would in developing a new muscle. And so here we are, ready to move on to the next chapter. Thank you for sitting in and just listening to my thoughts and ideas. I really appreciate it and would love to hear your comment. Go ahead, share that with me. What do you think? I will not delay the next chapter any further. Go ahead, grab your coffee, grab your tea, or grab your wine. Let's sit back as we move forward to chapter 7. How to concentrate the attention. Quote by Wilmot. Attention makes the genius. Quote by Helvetius. Genius is merely continued attention. Quote by Lord Chesterfield. Attention is a sure mark of the superior genius. Quote by James Russell Lowell. Attention is the stuff that memory is made of. Quote by Sir Isaac Newton. If I have made any improvement in the sciences, it is owing more to patient attention than to anything else. Concentration of the attention is one of the master keys of power. Without it, one can accomplish nothing great or significant. The most perfect perceptions, the most retentive memory, the most daring and picturesque imagination, without concentration, they can effect nothing. The principle of concentration may be well illustrated by a physical comparison. Suppose we take a football weighing 4 ounces and propel it through the air by means of the charge of powder, generally used for a projectile of 4 ounces weight. What effect will the impact of the football have? None whatever. But suppose we concentrate the 4 ounces weight into a sphere of lead less than an inch in diameter and put behind it the same propulsive force. What then will happen? Now, the difference between the football and the leaden bullet is the difference between diffusion and concentration. The difference between impingement that is harmless and that which is deadly. And so it is in the world of thought. The thoughts of some people are like a football, big, expanded by wordy wind, slow-moving, ineffective. The thoughts of others are like bullets, concentrated, swift, direct, going straight to the center without pause or hindrance. This one thing I do, said the profound philosopher Paul of Tarsus. And if we study the history of the world's master spirits, we shall find that this has been their policy. The uncouth butcher who pushed Charles I from the throne and established a form of government based on moral principle instead of special right. The pallid, undersized French advocate who, in the hope of establishing his wild dream of democracy, sent the flower of French aristocracy walking up Dr. Guillotine's stairway. The ignorant tinker who gave to the world what is perhaps the greatest allegory in profane literature. The undersized plebeian Corsican adventurer who made himself a master of the world. All these had for their motto the idea of concentration. This one thing I do. Now, what is meant by concentration of the attention, or as it's sometimes called, the power of attention? You see, in the kind of language which I am using to you, we do not attempt to express things with scientific precision. For that means the use not only of many, many words, but the introduction of many new, and to us, unnecessary words. So for our purpose, we may use the terms concentration, power of attention, concentration of attention, as if they meant the same thing, as they actually do. What is concentration? Now, what is concentration? In a word, concentration may be defined as being that state of mind in which the total and entire energies of the individual, physical as well as mental, are focused upon the thing he is doing or thinking. All actions and all thoughts not connected with what he is doing or thinking are kept out of the mind, and all his forces are bent upon the task in hand. He who can do this has concentration, has the power of attention. He who has not this power must acquire it before he can hope to do or be anything admirable or worthy in the world. Anyone who has performed any difficult feat of strength, such as lifting a heavy weight, muscling himself up on the horizontal bar, or trying to make a track record of the 100-yard dash or the 220, will realize how large a factor in these muscular performances is the mere fact of concentration. In these, as well as in a great many other so-called physical feats, such as jumping, marksmanship, shot putting, and so on, the slightest wandering of the mind from the work in hand is absolutely destructive of success. In acrobatic work, such as flying trapeze in flying rings, as well as in juggling and balancing, the same is true. Acrobatic jugglers and gymnasts are always masters of the art of attention, of concentration as applied to their special feats. Attention largely a negative act. Now, concentration is largely a negative process. It depends as much upon what you do not do as upon what you do. To take an example, you sit down to write a difficult letter. The trolley car whizzes by with its villainous bang bang. You are suddenly reminded that you should have gone downtown to get that book your wife wanted. But there's the letter. You turn back to it. You write another line or two, and then suddenly you hear the excited bark of little Fido, the Scotch Terrier. You go to the window and look out. Nothing the matter. Only another terrier not quite so Scotch across the street. You read back a few lines of your letter and start again. You don't quite know what to say. Your eye wanders around the room. Ah, yes, that suit to be pressed. You attend to this matter, then go back to your letter, and so on. A half hour has passed, and the letter is only begun. Now this is a fair example of the lack of concentration of a wandering mind. And such a habit of thought is an absolute bar to any achievement that is helpful either to one's self or to the world at large. And how shall this tendency be overcome? By what means may we gain the power of bringing every faculty of the mind to bear upon the task of the moment, without allowing any of our thought or attention to wander into other directions? It is very simple, but not at first easy. Merely refuse to let the mind wander. Be the master of your mind, of yourself. Remember what Milton says, "He who is master of himself is king of men." But of course you want more specific direction than this. It is easy to say concentrate, but you need to know exactly how to concentrate. Remembering that attention is merely the act of applying the mind, the entire mind, to the task in hand, you will understand that the faithful practice of the various exercises advised in previous chapters of this series cannot but be of the greatest value as aids to the development of the power of attention. Every effort of the mind, whether to perceive, to recollect, to associate, to imagine, or to judge, must necessarily involve a concentration of the faculties of the mind upon that particular act, whatever it may be. So, first of all, I may assure you that the practices I have advised, if you have faithfully followed them, will have by this time notably increased your power of attention. As a matter of fact, such assurance on my part is superfluous, for if you have exercised as I have directed, you yourself will already have noted a marked change in this direction as well as in others. Do not allow yourself to overlook the fact that whatever may be the mental act in which you are engaged, the act of attention is necessarily involved. There is no faculty of the mind in which you have so many opportunities of exercise. So the first exercise I shall advise that you go over carefully all the methods which I have detailed in the chapters on perception, memory, association, imagination, and judgment, making a special effort while doing them not to allow the mind to wander for a moment from the task in hand. This alone, if persistently and conscientiously done, would ensure you a high degree of this splendid intellectual accomplishment. One of the best methods I know for him or who would begin at the beginning and learn to concentrate the attention is the following. Select some task which, while simple, requires accuracy and close attention. A sum in addition or multiplication is well adapted for this purpose. Now settle yourself down to this, resolving that until it is finished and verified, you will not allow the mind to take in or at any rate hold any other idea or picture whatever. While adding or multiplying the figures, you will suddenly find that there pops in the mind some other idea. The clang of a bell, fire or the ambulance, a shouting on the street, a fight or a runaway, a thought of the landlady, your tailor, your grocer. Now, just here is where you are required to make the essential act of concentration a trained attention. Shut the door on these outside thoughts. Turn back to your work. For a time, at any rate, you cannot prevent the intrusion of extraneous thoughts. You can, however, resolutely refuse to allow them to remain in the mind. At first, they will come, insistently, again and again, beating at the door of your consciousness. Let me in, they cry. Never mind those stupid figures. I am more interesting. I am more important to you. You must, you ought, you've got to think of me. Let me in. But no, says the trained mind. This one thing I do, one thing at a time. I can think of but one object at once, and if I let you into my mind, I can do justice neither to you nor to my task. Avaunt! But the haunters do not retreat so easily. They return and return with incredible persistency. They pound at the door of your mind. They insist on intruding, and occasionally they get in. Then, don't worry or fret about them. Don't let them bother or excite you. Don't be discouraged. Simply bring the attention back to the original subject of thought. As Dr. William James, professor of psychology in Harvard, said, effort of attention is the essential phenomenon of will. Another exercise for concentration of the attention is simply to count. Count 100 beginning with 2 and adding 3 each time. Example, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, etc. Or beginning with 2, add 6, 7, 9, 13, or 17 each time. Example, 2, 8, 14, 20, etc. 2, 9, 16, 23, 30, etc. 2, 11, 20, 29, 38, etc. Or beginning with 100, count downward subtracting 3, 6, 7, 9, 11, 13, 17, or 19 each time. Example, 100, 97, 94, 91, etc. All this may seem very simple, but you will find that unless you already have a very finely developed power of attention, you will not at first be able to complete the 100 in any of these exercises without the entrance into the mind of vagrant, extraneous thoughts. By the time you're able to add or subtract freely in this way without any wandering of the attention, you may congratulate yourself on having acquired, to an unusual degree, the power of concentrated attention. For the next exercise, you will need about 3 dozen large-sized blank cards. The best size is about 3 by 5 inches. Upon one of these cards, write a number of 4 figures, such as 4357. Upon several others, write 4 figures arranged in a square as 47, and under that 93. Then on several cards, write 6 figures as 457, under which you place 236, or figures such as 4752 and 96 under each other. Other cards should contain from 7 to 10 numbers in a simple column. Prepare a dozen of these cards. Now to use them. Shuffle the cards face downward. Draw one. Give a rapid glance at its face and then repeat out loud the numbers that you saw, first in the order in which they were written. Example, 4357, then backward, 7534. Or to take another card, repeat 475296 in the order in which they appear. Then backward, 96, 52, 47. Then go down the units column, 7, 2, 6. Then up the tens column, 9, 5, 4, and so on. After a few hours of practice such as this, you will begin to know the figures on each card by memory. This, while a good thing in one way, makes the exercise of less value as a training in concentration. So it will be necessary for you to make up another set. In the second set, make a larger number of figures on each card. Say something like 947, 853, 201 under each other, making a square of 9 figures, or 94, 78, 53, 20, 16 in a column, or a line of 12 or 15 single figures arranged as for an example in addition. After a period of practice with these cards, you will find again that you are learning to remember the numbers from previous glances rather than from the one last glance. Then it is time to make another set. This time, make your figure squares still larger. Run them up to squares like this: 4702, 3895, 6374, 9765, etc. Or make collections of numbers like 470, 238, 956, etc. Making a list of perhaps 5 or 6 lines of 3 figures each. In my own experience along this line, I have known of students who could remember with unerring fidelity a figure squaring consisting of 64 squares arranged in a square as 4896432, 938422739, etc. It seems incredible, but it is entirely true that after a time, it is quite easy to recall a mental picture of 64 figures as of 12 or 16. It is perhaps an improvement on the above described practice to have the assistance of another who will shuffle the cards and exhibit one for a fleeting second. Where you can get someone to work with you, it is good plan for the assistant to read a few lines of prose, say about 20 words at first. which you afterwards repeat from memory. Or he may call out a list of words or figures to which you listen and which you afterward repeat. And now for the last and most important exercise which I have to suggest. And I may say right here that if you practice persistently and conscientiously, you will acquire the power of concentration to a greater degree and in a shorter time than by all other methods combined. This exercise, like most things that are great and important, is also very simple. It is this: make every detail a work of art. Think this over. It means that you do everything, the most trivial acts, with strict and exclusive attention. Are you lacing your boots? There is a way in which that homely little act can be performed more rapidly, easily, and satisfactorily than it can in any other way. Standing, walking, dressing one's self, writing, shaking hands, shaving, handling knife and fork, opening a book, all these and a million other trivial acts, if done conscientiously and attentively, afford a training in concentration which it is absolutely impossible to gain in any other way. When asked by some inquisitive reporter the secret of his success, "Sunset," Cox replied, "I think it is my attention to detail. I pride myself upon the way I can wrap up a paper parcel." This is the true spirit, the pride of success. Make every detail a work of art. And then the gain. You develop not only the power of concentration, you develop perception, memory, association, imagination, will. And this is one of the most satisfactory results of the practice of mental training. In developing any one faculty, you are at the same time developing others. But as regards concentration, when you are training that, you are at the same time training all the other powers of the mind. And this concludes Chapter 7. All right, my friend. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's head over to the next video where I will meet you there with Chapter 8.